Hi guys, so a few of you are having a bit of trouble with decimals this week, and that's completely normal. Decimals are a tricky concept to understand. So I'm going to break it down for you just a little bit more. So hopefully you get more of an understanding of what a decimal is. Now, last term we did a little bit of work on fractions. Now, a fraction, as we know, shows part of a number. And I've got a little wheel here showing my pi, and we're going to have a look at some fractions here. So a decimal is a lot like a fraction, okay? It is part of a number. So let's have a look. Now we're talking about tenths. So tenths, so this word here, tenths. Okay, we're talking about tenths this week. And as well as hundreds and thousands, but I don't want you to worry about that. I just want you to focus on this word, tenths. I've broken my pie up into 10 pieces, so my fraction is in tenths. So think about it this way. If I ate one of my pieces of pie, I would have eaten 1/10. Okay, that's how we would write 1/10 as a fraction. If I then ate 2 pieces of my pie altogether, it would be 2/10. If I then ate 3 pieces of the pie altogether, it would be 3/10. If I then ate 4 pieces of the pie, it would be 4/10. If I ate 5 pieces of the pie, it would be 5/10. If I ate 6 pieces of the pie, it would be, I'm going to write this one here, 6/10. If I did 7 pieces, it would be 7/10. And if I had 8 pieces, it'd be 8/10, and so on. Okay? And when I ate all the way up, so if I had 9/10, 10/10, that is actually a whole number, isn't it? So I've eaten a whole pie. Now, as I said, fractions and decimals are very similar. Decimal is just writing a fraction in a different way. So if I was to say 1/10, and I needed to write it as a decimal, I would write it like this. A 0, a decimal point, and a 1. If I was to write 2/10 as a decimal, I would write a 0, a decimal point, and a 2. If I was to do 3/10, I'd write a 0, the decimal point, and a 3. Now, the way we say this is 1/10, and the decimal is also 1/10. This is 2/10 as a fraction, and then we also read the decimal as 2/10 as a fraction. Some people used to say 0.2, but we're trying to get out of that language now. We want to be saying 2/10. 3/10 is 3/10 as a decimal. So what do you think 4/10 as a fraction would look like? I want you to write it down on a piece of paper for me. What would 4/10 look like as a decimal? If we've noticed the pattern, what would it look like? I'm going to write it now for you. If you need more time, just pause the video. 4/10. Did you get that one? Well done. All right. 5/10. Have a go at 5/10. What would 5/10 look like as a decimal? I'm going to write it here. 5/10. Excellent. What would, you can't really see that 6 on the screen, I'll write it again, 6/10 look like as a decimal? Have a go. Excellent. If you got 0, a decimal point, and a 6, you got it correct. 7/10. All right. Now I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge. I would like you to now write down what 8/10 would look like as a decimal, what 9/10 would look like a decimal, and not what 10/10, because that would be a whole. So have a go now. Pause the video, and then when you're done, press play. So 8/10 would look like this as a decimal, and 9/10 would look like this as a decimal. Excellent. I'm just going to pause this for a moment, and I will be back in a second. Now in your book, I want you to have a go at these ones. What would these look like? So we've got 1/10, 4/10, and 8/10. How'd that look like? What would that look like as a decimal? I'll just pause the video now, and then we'll go through the answers together. So if we're doing 1/10 as a decimal, it would look like, that doesn't work, 0.1. So that is 1/10. Can you say that for me? 1/10. 4/10 as a decimal would look like this. 4/10 as a decimal. 8/10 as a decimal would look like this. 8/10. I'm going to now show you, I'm going to write decimals for you, and I'd like you to yell them out at the screen as I write them. Okay, so I'm writing decimals, and you've just got to tell me how many tenths they are. Are you ready? One-tenth, very good. 6/10. I'm just going to change the color so you can see it a little bit better. 8/10. Excellent. 2/10. Very good. 4/10. Excellent. Very good. And remember, these are the same as writing it as a fraction, like we would do 4/10 like this. It's just a different way of writing it. It's a fraction. So what you're going to do in the next couple of slides is I've written these in words, okay? So, and you've got to tell me what the tenths are using those words, okay? So for example, I've written 1/10. That would equal, if I was to write it as a decimal, 0.1 or 1/10. Looks a bit like a Q now. If I had written in words, 6/10. How would you write that as a decimal? If you had a 0, a decimal point, and a 6, you'd be right. Let's do one more before you start this activity. So we've got 8/10 written in words. How would we write that as a decimal? 0.8. Excellent. All right, I want you to have a go at the ones that I've put down on the slides for you. And if you've got any questions, please ask, and I will help you in the comments. Okay. After you've done those 2 slides where you've done these ones here, you will also then have another video, because we're going to do something a little bit more with tenths as well. All right. Thanks, guys.